Hello everyone, my name is Serafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be playing Lyrilusc. Lyrilusc is a fun deck. It's a lot of little one star birds that have 0 attack and 0 defense, and they are simply materials. It is a deck that is solely focused around Xyz summoning, and it's just a really solid, powerful deck. A lot of decks like to run, some back row, some hand traps, that sort of thing. Not us. We're going for some negates, chat. And I don't mean effect failure. I mean real negates. So, let's take a look at our skill and what we can do with the deck. First up, we're playing Lyrilusc Bird Humming. You can only use this skill's second and third effects once per duel. You cannot normal or special summon any monsters except for Lyrilusc monsters and level 1 monsters. Reveal one Lyrilusc monster in your hand, send one Lyrilusc monster from your deck to the graveyard. If your opponent controls a monster, send one monster from your field to the graveyard. Then play one Lyrilusc monster from your deck to your field in face down defense position. Its battle position can be changed. I have played this deck for probably about 20 wins at this point. I have not used that second effect a single time. It is not good. But the first effect is pretty decent. Okay. So, for the main deck, we are playing Relinquished. Relinquished is a fusion material for the Millennium Eyes Restrict. Very good card. Next up, we have King of the Swamp. You can discard this card to add Polymerization from your deck to your hand, and this card can be treated as Relinquished for the fusion summon of Millennium Eyes Restrict. Lyrilusc Sapphire Swallow. If you control a Winged Beast monster, you can special summon both this card and one level Winged Beast monster from your hand. You have to have a target in your hand, so you can't just summon Sapphire Swallow by herself. You can only use this effect once per turn. A Wind Xyz monster that was summoned on the field, summoned using this card on the field as material, gains this effect. If it is Xyz summoned, you can target one Lyrilusc monster in your graveyard and attach it to this card's material. So that's important. All of these cards give a benefit to the monster if it is Xyz summoned using the card on the field. So if you attach the card by using your continuous spell, or by equipping it from the graveyard, you will not get the effect. So you want to make sure that you are using the Cobalt Sparrow in particular to make your Assembled Nightingale. Alright, Lyrilusc Barrel Canary. If this card is in your hand, you can target one Lyrilusc monster in your graveyard, special summon both this card and that monster. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Xyz monsters. A Wind Xyz monster that was summoned using this card on the field gains this effect. This card gains 200 attack, also its control cannot switch. It's pretty useful. There are a lot of decks playing cards like Mind Control right now, Crackdown, that sort of thing. Barrel Canary does protect you, and it also gives you a little bit of extra attack points, which can win the game. And the summon from graveyard is very, very helpful. Cobalt Sparrow. If this card is special summon, you can add one level 1 Winged Beast monster from your deck to your hand. That's from special summon in any way. You can only use this effect once per turn. A Wind Xyz monster that was summoned using this card on the field as material gains this effect. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Pretty good. This is the main reason that Assembled Nightingale is so hard to get rid of on the field. Next up, we have 3 copies of Turquoise Warbler. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. That is not once per turn. If your opponent bounces this card, if they remove this card, if you have another copy of it, then you can special summon this card over and over again. You can special summon one if this card is special summoned from the hand, including not by its own effect. So if you play like Bird Call, or you summon it off of Sapphire Swallow, it will still trigger. You can special summon one Lyrilusc monster from your hand or from your graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. So this card is our main starter. That's why we're playing 3 copies of it. You can use the skill to reveal this card, send your Cobalt Sparrow or your Celestine Wagtail from your deck to the graveyard, then special summon Warbler and revive that card to trigger its special summon effect. Pretty solid. Celestine Wagtail. If this card is special summon, you can add one Lyrilusc spell or trap from your deck to your hand. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target one Lyrilusc Xyz monster you control, attach this card to it as material. You can only use each effect once per turn. Being able to attach this card to a monster from the graveyard is very good. You can use this card basically, first you search, then you detach it to pay the cost of Robina Starling so you can search again, and then you attach it again from the graveyard to give yourself more attacks and materials and that sort of thing. Very, very good card. Lyrilusc Bird Call. Take one Lyrilusc monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Then you can special summon one Lyrilusc monster with a different name from your hand. You can only activate one Bird Call per turn. As good as this card is, I really didn't play it too much. I only have 1 copy, sure, but I could have searched it and I didn't feel the need to. This card is simply not that useful when you have a 20-card deck and 5 monsters that you can use that all kind of search each other. It's like Bird Call is as powerful as Bird Call seems to be. Robina Starling just kind of fulfills that role, and it's in your extra deck, so you don't really need nearly as many copies of Bird Call as I was expecting. I'm doing fine with just one. Relinquish Fusion. Fusion summon one Eyes Restrict fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials from your hand, field, and or graveyard. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Target one effect monster your opponent controls. Equip that target to an Eyes Restrict fusion monster or relinquish you control as if it were equipped by that monster's effect. You can only use each effect of Relinquish Fusion once per turn. So you can play Relinquish Fusion, banish your King of the Swamp from your graveyard, and then one of your Lyrilusc monsters from your hand to fusion summon Millennium Eyes Restrict. Then you can banish the Relinquish Fusion to get a extra suck on your Millennium Eyes Restrict, which is really, really good. So it's 2 types, it's a negate and removal, and you can use it as a quick play, so really solid. Polymerization, we have to play 1 copy of this so that we can put King of the Swamp in the graveyard. Lyrilusc Bird Strike, if you control a Lyrilusc monster, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls until the end of the turn. You can only activate 1 Bird Strike per turn. So this is Dark Ruler no more, but you can damage the opponent, which is really, really good. Obviously, having a Lyrilusc monster on the field means that you've already been negated at least once, unless your opponent has not negated you for some reason. If you basically, like, maybe you summon your Turquoise Warbler and your opponent didn't negate it, and instead they decided to negate the Celestine Wagtail that you revived because they know that's once per turn, you could have revived it another way. You still have the Warbler out, so then you could play Bird Strike, and then you're just set for the rest of the turn. So it's a good card, especially in the mirror. Lyrilusc Bird Sanctuary. This is a continuous spell card. You can target 2 Winged Beast Xyz monsters you control, attach one of them to the other as material, transfer its materials to that monster. If you control an Xyz monster with 3 or more materials, you could draw 1 card. You can only use each effect once per turn. Drawing a card every single turn is really, really good. This is basically like if you can keep this out for 2 turns, it's pot of greed. And that's solid because it's really easy to keep this card out for 2 turns. So yeah, good card. Alright, Millennium Eyes Restrict requires Relinquish plus 1 effect monster. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect as a quick effect, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls or that is in their graveyard. Equip that target to this card you control. This card gains attack and defense equal to that equipped monsters. Monsters with that equipped monster's original name cannot attack. Also, their effects on the field and their activated effects are negated. So, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can activate Millennium Eyes Restrict's effect in response. You remove that monster from the field, it becomes your equipped spell, and then its effect on the stack is negated. And if the opponent summons another monster with the same original name, then that monster's effects are also negated, and they can't attack. So Millennium Eyes Restrict is a very, very good card. It's also level 1, which means we can play it with the skill. Lyrilusc Ensemble Robin. 2 or more level 1 monsters. Gains 500 attack for each material attached to it. If your opponent special summons a monster, except during the damage step, you can attach 1 material from this card, target one of those special summon monsters, and return it to the hand. That is not once per turn, so you can do this as many times as you want to. If this card is your possession and is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can target one other Lyrilusc monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Really, really good effect. Lyrilusc Assembled Nightingale requires 2 or more level 1 monsters. This card gains 200 attack for each Xyz material attached to it. This card can attack directly. While this card has Xyz material, it can attack a number of times each battle phase up to the number of Xyz materials attached to it. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can attach 1 material from this card. Until the end of the turn, Lyrilusc monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and you take no battle damage. That's a very powerful effect. It can be combined with Robina Starling to get you lethal, and more importantly, Assembled Nightingale is just your way of getting lethal all the time. So, if you have 4 materials, and one of those materials is Barrel Canary, because Barrel Canary gives you 200 attack points, then you have lethal, because that's 4,000 damage. So, Assembled Nightingale is just a good card to make going first, because it can't be destroyed by battle, it can't be destroyed by card effects, and it can't be targeted. And you take no damage. And even if it gets removed from the field, you still take no damage. So, really, really good card. You only have 1, though, which is kind of the risk. If you make this card and your opponent removes it, like with Dingirsu, then you might not have a way to win the game. So be careful. Lyrilusc Recital Starling. This card should be at 3. I have Lulu at 34, I think, so I don't have the last copy of Recital Starling yet. Two or more level 1s. If this card is Exceed Summon, you can target one face-up monster on the field. It gains 300 attack and defense for each material attached to this card. This is a good reason to make your Recital Starling going at seconds if you have the ability to make both Assembled Nightingale and this card. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, add one level 1 Winged Beast monster from your deck to your hand. That does not have to be a Lyrilusc, so you could get, for example, DD Crow. All battle damage you take from battles involving this Exceed Summon card is also inflicted to your opponent. Now, if your opponent, if you have Lyrilusc Assembled Nightingale and use its effect, then you attack with Recital Starling, you take no damage, your opponent still takes damage. So, for example, if Recital Starling goes into the Neobalize Ultimate Dragon and you have Assembled Nightingale out, then you take no damage, your opponent takes 4,500. If you don't have Assembled Nightingale out, then you both take 4,500 and it's a draw. Very weird that Konami would give us this card that results in so many draws at 3. I guess they're hoping that it's not going to happen as frequently in a game with 4,000 life points, because we don't have as many life points to kind of throw away. But I really think it will, to be honest. Lyrilusc Promenade Thrush. 2 or more level 1s, gains 500 attack for each material attached to it. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, target one spell or trap your opponent controls, and shuffle it into the deck. That's pretty good. At the start of the damage step, if another monster you control battles, you can detach any number of materials from this card. That monster you control gains 300 attack for each material detached until the end of the turn. So Promenade Thrush is a great way to give Assembled Nightingale lethal if you need to. I don't think it's as good as Recital Starling, because you have to keep Promenade Thrush on the field, which means that you can't just buff the Assembled Nightingale and then give it the materials with your Bird Sanctuary. But if you need to remove a spell or trap, then this is a good alternative. Alright, let's take a look at the replay. Alright, so we are going second against Dark Magician. The opponent is going to normal summon Dark Magician, use Battle Chronicle. They draw Secrets of Dark Magic, which they will then activate. Fuse Dark Magician and Buster Blader into, or Blackluster Soldier into Dark Cavalry, and then pass. Okay. So the opponent has Dark Cavalry out with 2 cards in hand. Now, Dark Cavalry can negate the effect of Bird Sanctuary to attach a monster as material, which means it's going to be pretty hard for us to get lethal. But it's okay. We're going to first activate our skill, reveal our Warbler to mill the Cobalt Sparrow. Then we activate Bird Call. We add the Sapphire Swallow from deck to hand. Then we special summon the Turquoise Warbler, which will allow us to revive the Cobalt Sparrow. Cobalt Sparrow, draw the Celestine Wagtail, and then we Xyz into our Assembled Nightingale. Cobalt Sparrow effect, Sapphire Swallow effect. Then we're going to special summon the Sapphire Swallow and the Celestine Wagtail. Still haven't targeted any cards on the field, so there is no opportunity to negate. We draw the Bird Sanctuary, and then we are going to activate Bird Sanctuary, and then we play Polymerization. We fuse the Relinquished in our hand, which is the King of the Swamp, with the Barrel Canary to make Millennium Eyes Restrict, so that we can now potentially negate the Dark Cavalry. However, this is a targeted effect, which means that if we activate this effect, then our opponent can simply discard another card from their hand to negate and destroy our Millennium Eyes Restrict. It's not a foolproof plan, but it does mean that we can potentially make him only have 1 negate instead of 2. We're going to Xyz into the Recital Starling. Now, with Recital Starling, we have a Chain Link 1, target the Assembled Nightingale to give it attack points, but then we chain block it with the Sapphire Swallow effect, which is also triggered on Xyz Summon to allow us to attach a monster from the graveyard as material. So because we did this, our opponent cannot actually Dark Cavalry because the last card on the chain is not targeting a card on the field. Okay, so we give our Assembled Nightingale 900 extra attack points. Then we get to draw a card because we have 3 materials attached to our Recital Starling, and the card that we draw is Relinquished Fusion. Insane. So we're going to attach 1. We're going to draw a Barrel Canary, and then we activate the Relinquished Fusion, and we're going to banish the 2 monsters from the graveyard to make a second Millennium Eyes Restrict. Millennium Eyes Restrict is a soft once per turn. Now we're going to activate the Bird Sanctuary, targets the Recital Starling and the Assembled Nightingale. The opponent is going to activate Dark Cavalry, discard Dark Magician to negate that card and destroy it. We will activate Millenniumize Restrict to target the monster and negate its effects and attach it as material. The opponent is going to Dark Cavalry again, because that's not once per chain. We are going to activate our second Millenniumize Restrict, and we're going to attach it as material. Then both of its negates on the stack are negated, and we attack for lethal. There you go. That's the power of Relinquished Lyrilusc. You have plenty of negates, you have plenty of ways to go lethal, you have a lot of search, a lot of draw. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.